Okay, here's some more uses of existing commands you already know. So, and then some new commands. Let's go first with edge blend. We've used edge blend before to round off corners. Sometimes we think of an edge blend as just a very small rounding of a corner, like here, but it's very small, 0.5. Like the edge of a Lego piece, okay? It isn't really necessarily square. It has just a really tiny rounded edge where the plastic shrunk in the molding or something. Whether you do the edge blend like this, be careful, there's different solutions. If you do 1, apply it, 2, apply it, 3, apply it. Notice you get a corner, a pointed corner. If, on the other hand, you do 3 at once, pick 1, 2, 3, you get a rounded corner. Okay? So depending on what you pick, it does affect what you're doing. Also, you have the option of what we call a filter here, where you can pick one edge, or you could pick a whole face. Okay, if you pick the whole face, it's going to try and round all the corners. Sometimes, depending on what the geometry is, it can't do that, and it'll crash, in which case you might have to put it on single and do it singly, okay, one feature at a time. But there's an edge blend. Sometimes an edge blend can be used to change a feature completely. An edge blend can make this part into like a silo or bullet shape simply by doing this and increasing the radius until it touches in the center, because it's more of a feature than an edge blend, but it does work. Now there's a little dot left over, probably because this thing is not exactly 40 diameter. Okay, edge blends. Let's say you were doing a pistol grip on something, okay? You may make a very jagged line here like this. Let's do the corners here. Let's do this. So edge blend. Let's do it simpler first. And this usually takes some playing with. And then you increase until these touch. Okay, apply that, and then you can apply, let's do a connected curve or a tangent curve, like this, like that, and maybe increase that too, till they meet. Oh, looks like I went maybe a little bit too far. Let's go 9.5. As close as I could get, probably be better. I didn't like 10 though. Anyway, unable to apply blend, one of these corners that's having a problem with it. Let's just go 9. Didn't like that either. So what happens when I just guess on dimensions? It's having a problem right down here at the bottom. So let's do an edge blend, and let's just pick the sides. I won't pick that last one. It was having a problem on. Okay, something like that. But the idea is, with a lot of edge blends, you get sort of like a pistol grip shape, okay? Sometimes you just have to make a strange shaped surface. That's just like, it just looks like someone pushed on it, okay? There's a command called Xform. And if you use your search command finder up here, and if you highlight it, it'll actually take you to curve, and it'll actually take you to the command, okay, and show you where it's at. Or you can just click on it here. And the Xform command is used like this. You pick a surface, and then you can increase the number of what do they call them? Parameterization. I call them nodes. Okay. The more nodes, the more things you have to push and pull on. So these white balls can be clicked and held and stretched. Okay. The more you put on, the more you can deform it. Kind of in 3D space. And it kind of puts a splined surface between those points. Now, if you had to do the same thing on the other side, you'd want to mirror this, not try and recreate it, because you're just pushing and pulling it without actually a distance known. But yeah, if you need some sort of warp surface, that's the easy way to do it. Let's do an edge blend again. And what we're going to do with this one is we're going to go a variable radius. I found this one interesting. So if you pick an edge to edge blend, what if it's the radius changes from one side to the next? So with a variable radius, you can pick the imaginary starting point and the end point, and you then have two different radiuses. You can go from 0 to 100 or whatever it is. This is actually a very difficult thing to create without a variable radius edge blend. Okay. You can also put more points. You might have to get them evenly spaced. You may actually have to create a sketch on the face, okay, to get all these evenly spaced. But with this, what you can do is, this is another way to do a warp surface or like a finger grip. You'd want to make sure they're all the same length and stuff, but that gives you a finger grip sort of surface too. Okay, variable radius. They have one called, let's see if I can figure out how to do that again. Edge blend on here, and it's called stop short, corner setback, or stop short of a corner. And I think you pick the corner and the radius. Here, let me type something in here. Yeah, there you go. So that's the arc length, is where it stops short of that corner. So it doesn't go all the way to that corner. Otherwise, it always picks the whole line. Okay. So there's other things in some of these commands. I don't use them enough to get really good at them. But the corner setback, stop short of a corner, I'm not sure what the corner setback was, but variable radius is really handy. Sometimes that comes in really handy. Okay, there are several commands under menu, insert, design feature. So we know the extrude, the revolve. If you've used a primitive, the block, the cylinder, the cone, the sphere. But under here, under hole, we have boss, pocket, and pad. Now boss, you pick a surface, and it gives you an extrusion of some cylinder. So you can pick the diameter, you can pick the height, you can even give it a taper angle. That's a fast way to make like a button or something, okay? That's called a boss. It's an extrusion. Once you create it, it then says, well, now you want to position it. So then you'd pick, probably, since it's a cylinder on a cylindrical surface, you'd say point on the point, and you'd pick a surface, like an arc center of that surface, and it'd line them up. If you wanted to do it here, the position would be an X and a Y distance from two different edges. Insert, design feature. A pad is a rectangular boss. So if you went to a surface like this, and then you have to tell it which way is like the first dimension. So I think I usually do a vertical reference, and I pick an edge. And then that gave me a horizontal. I guess in that orientation. So you do a length and a width and a height and a corner radius and a taper angle if you want. Sometimes I get in trouble when I just pick something. There it is. That's a pad, rectangular pad, and you'd position it, say perpendicular to this edge, and I'd what did I pick? What did I do wrong here? Back, perpendicular, maybe parallel to this edge. There we go. There's my one distance. If you don't use it a lot, you usually got to play around with it. But you can do two different distances from two different surfaces and position it on a plane. It'd be easier if I made that thing smaller. But that's a pad. You could do it with an extrude. I mean, you could create the same thing, although the corner radiuses and do add a little bit of complexity to it. Let's see, insert, design feature. Now a pocket, when they got around to making the pocket, they said, well, let's just make either cylindrical or rectangular, and they did that. So let's see, vertical surface, you got to pick some edge, and I think that this side is this size here, I believe. So let's go 50 by 20 wide. Corner radius 4, floor radius 3, taper angle 2. Rectangular pocket depth has to be deeper than the radius. That makes sense. So there we go. Then you'd position it, say okay, and there's the pocket. Okay, so this is the corner radius here, around here, at the top, and this is the bottom radius here. And as you can see, the corner radius, it starts out large, and since it's bending at the bottom too, it gets smaller. If this goes to 0, it'll give you an error. But there's your pocket. Again, yes, you could do that with just a rectangle, subtract it into the part, and then edge blend the sides, but if you get good with some of these other commands, it speeds things up. There is a dart command. Not used too often, but when you need this particular feature, it's used in molds. Insert, design feature, dart. A dart looks like a little structural member. You basically pick one wall and then pick another wall, and it puts that symbol, or that 3D feature in there. You can change the angle. That's the angle of the sides here. You can change the radius on top. You can change the depth or the distance apart, out apart. That's a difficult feature to create. It's not something you can do with just one try, one command. A lot of times something like this would be used if you had a box, a thick walled box, and you needed structural support on the side without adding a lot of material. You might put darts all the way around the side of the box. You could use the pattern command. Grab the dart and say go around this edge, and you define the edge of the block, and it would put those darts all the way around the side. So, and it could be inside the box or outside the box, but that's a dart. If you notice a feature like this on something you're doing, you probably want to use the dart. A groove will cut a groove around something. Typically it'd be cutting a slot around there. A slot though is more useful. Like if you needed a dovetailed slot, insert, design feature, slot, and you'd pick like a dovetail slot, pick a face, pick a reference. Okay, we'll do that one. The width is 20, the depth is 10, sides are 45, the length is, I don't know, 60. I'm not exactly, here we go. So there's the dovetail slot. If you've ever worked with a router, you know, wood cutting router bit, basically it's a spinning, it would be spinning like this and goes through the material, the wood or whatever. And when you hit OK, it's going to, first it asks you for the position, so you can position it. Let's position it from here to there. And it's a subtraction, so any of these slots are cutting a slot in. If you go all the way through the part, you don't see the rounded in, like on this end. Okay. If you stop short of it, you're going to get a rounded in. So it cuts as if you're using a router. Okay, let's say we have a box, a container or something, some feature like this, maybe a Lego, and we wanted to put some thin webs or ribbing on the inside. So we're going to go to here. And let's just say the ribbing is like from midpoint across and from midpoint across. And usually ribbing is just to give it some structural support, but it's very thin. Let's make sure these things are vertical and horizontal. And finish it. Now I'm not going to do that right away. Let's just cancel, but create this. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to extrude the line and then give the line some thickness. So if you go to extrude, and if they're all the same, we can click on all of them. We'd start from, say, the bottom, so that's 0, and we're going to only go like 5 millimeters up. Okay, and then let's say if we open it up here using the full menu here, and we're going to go to offset, and we're going to offset that line two-sided. Now two-sided would actually let us make it asymmetrical. We could make it 1 millimeter thick on one side and 2 millimeters thick on the other side, so it's asymmetrical. If you say symmetrical, then you just have one thickness. If you say draft, then it's going to taper it. From the starting limit, you can taper it. You can make it either tapered wider or narrower. But that's a quick way to make webbing or ribbing. Actually, ribbing is on the inside, webbing is on the outside. Big deal. I call it fins. So if you have a plastic part like a, I don't know, paintball gun or something, it has, or a Nerf gun, it has plastic supports on the inside. They're really not that difficult in most cases. If you drew the line on this surface, and you wanted to go inward, so you'd put it the other way, and the bottom surface is curved, you just say your end value, you'd say until selected, and you'd pick that surface, and it would stop at that curved surface. So you can start and stop at curved surfaces. So, and I'm locked up again. So if you have a feature on one of your parts for your final project and you can't figure it out in a couple attempts, try some other feature, go to another part, take a snapshot of it, or send me the part, you know, and when we have a class session, bring it up and get some input. There's no reason to bash your head against the wall, for hours on end. If you can't figure something out, that's what I'm here for. If I can't figure it out, you don't have to do it.